All right. Fernanda, wonderful to see you today.
Wonderful to see you too.
Yeah, I'm excited to speak with you as always. So I know you have a couple of questions pulled. Let's start with the first one.
So the first one is, can you describe the hardest day of your entrepreneurial journey in vivid detail?
Oh my gosh, the hardest day of my entrepreneurial journey. Let me give this a thought for a second.
It's a hard question.
The hardest day. I know the hardest day. I've got it. So, old or what do they say? They say fortune favors the bold. You know, I'm a sucker for a good pithy quote, which means that I get inspired by this kind of thing. And you read these stories of founders, of operators, creators, and they all have to take the big jump at some point, and it's scary. And a lot of them talk about the pain and suffering, but if they have a platform to be talking to you about their pain and suffering, that means they've had extraordinary success. So you get the feeling that there's this arc that, or a hockey stick of success that goes straight up, but that's not always the case. So my first real jump into entrepreneurship was a health food brokerage I founded called New Natural Brokers. And what we did is, Fernanda, I know that you love to cook, that
Yes, I
if
do.
you created a product, yeah, if you created a product and wanted to sell it at grocery stores, you would find a broker like me that would pitch it for you. So this is particularly relevant for health food stores. And at the time, Whole Foods was the big player as far as local foods. And what was cool about Whole Foods is they really embraced it. So working with a broker like me, I could get them into the region. So being in Denver, I had the Rocky Mountain region and I also worked in Southern California region. And those are the two biggest health food markets in the world. And so what you do is I find you as a client and I take your product to Whole Foods. They say, great, we can do it. We're going to need food demos and we're going to need a certain fill in. That's basically the job. And we would fulfill all of those orders. So I had this idea for the business and decided to go all in. So I put a business plan together. And at this point, I'm married. I have two children and two cats. And my babies are probably 8 months and 6 months old. So I had a very ambitious business plan, which would be, okay, first day I get one client. By 2 weeks, I'll have 10 clients. And then in 3 months, I'll have a 8-figure business and we'll just be rolling. A little bit naive at the time. Customer acquisition is a little bit harder to come by, we'll say. So I talked to my wife real heart to heart, said, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to go all in on this. I have a plan. We're going to do it. Well, the first 3 months, I got one customer. And I worked my butt off for that one customer, but it wasn't paying the bills. So we had to make a tough decision, which was to rent our house and go live with her mother and her brother and sister with our two kids and our cats. And so, she was still with me. I was like, okay, cool, let's do it. So we move in, we start renting out our house. We actually, at the time, this was like just post the 2008 financial collapse. And as a result, we were underwater with our mortgage, which means we couldn't rent it for how much the mortgage payment was. So we were taking a loss. I think it was taking a $300 or $400 loss every month. Say I was, paying, I think 1,300 at the time for the house, and I was renting it for like 900. And it was tough to find tenants at that point. So let's talk about podcasts for a second. You're listening to one, which is awesome, by the way. Thank you so much. But have you ever thought about being a guest on a podcast? Like, seriously, imagine sharing your story and your expertise and your business all on shows where your ideal customers are already listening. Kitcaster connects founders and entrepreneurs, professionals, with podcasts that actually make sense for their brand. No pitching, no guessing. You just have great conversations on great shows. And the best part, Kitcaster handles everything. You just show up and bring your A game, Kitcaster does the rest. This is hands down one of the easiest ways to grow your personal brand and just create a wellspring of content for short video, for blog posts, for speaking engagements, for whatever. So if you've been thinking, yeah, I really need to step up my content game, go to kitcaster.com and apply today. Now back to the show. So we're renting the house at a loss. We're working out of her mother's house, which I'm so grateful for to this day. And it was actually a really good living situation, but I'm still having a hard time closing deals and getting new customers. So I'm working at my desk there, right in my bedroom, and I get a phone call, and it's my wife, and she's at the grocery store, and our card's declined for groceries. And she's sitting there with both babies, cart full of groceries, a line of people behind her waiting to check out, but she can't because she can't afford it. I'm like, okay, sweetheart, no problem. Just use the credit card. And she's like, I did. And I was like, all right, use the other one. And she's like, I did. And it was declined, declined, declined. So I had to tell her that she basically had to just leave without food, and that I would come and pick her up and pay with cash. And so I did. Now, my wife is an absolute saint and wonderful person, but I know the humiliation of that. I've had, my card declined too, but to have her go through that with our 2 kids at my mother-in-law's house, I just felt like the most utter failure, that it was absolutely gut-wrenching. And, you know, being in business, there's hard days, but that by far was the worst day.
It sounds like. And now when that wife of yours, because she sounds amazing, like to go through all of that, because it requires like a very strong woman to support like
Yeah.
the career you have, I think.
100%. She's absolutely extraordinary. She works for Denver County Court now and has her own career, and it's wonderful. And, some of the sacrifices we made, and now the end of that story is, I was able to grow the business. I ended up exiting that business, and we moved back into our house, and then we sold our house and moved again. It had a great happy ending, but truly because we were willing to make that sacrifice, and she was willing to like kind of help me with my dream, our real dream. Let me switch out this battery. Boom, boom, boom. This is the 4th battery of the day. I've been doing so many Zoom calls. It's unbelievable.
It's been a busy day then.
Oh, nonstop talking in glowing rectangles.
But I mean,
Let's
that's how
see.
you got here. Like that's
There we
what
go.
the story is about. All the hard work got
Yeah.
you where you are right now.
Yeah. So, that was great that business was a successful in the end. But ultimately, because we were willing to make some sacrifices in the beginning, we were able to do what will always be my number one accomplishment, um, as a professional, which was we were able to stay home and raise our kids ourselves. And I know that's not a solution for everybody, but for us, it was very important that my wife would be home with the kids. And, I had various offices, but of course I'm working at home with the kids. And so we stayed really tight, and now our kids are just about out of high school. And so, a couple of years ago, my wife was able to re-engage her career, and now, and have a fulfilling career there. So, you know, being able to do that and creating that space for our kids to kind of grow into these unbelievable individuals that they are now, like truly extraordinary people, will always be my greatest pride and joy.
Sounds like. And I mean, you have to get to that breaking point that you got through that day with the credit cards decline to like actually realize and get strength to continue your path. But I think it's necessary for everyone to get to that breaking point to gather strength
Yeah.
and get out of there. And it makes you
Yeah.
resilient.
I think so. And it was interesting because there's all these gut checks, and, everybody, if you're an entrepreneur or not, you're always thinking like, should I do something else? At the time it's like, well, should I just abandon this business and just go get a job? Like I'm not fulfilling my main role as a father, which is to provide for the family. I'm failing at that. Should I change? And there was absolutely no wavering. It's like, nope, we stay the course, you know, no matter what. Well, I don't think it's no matter what. I still needed I needed some validation points, and fortunately, I was able to get that, because there's certainly no loss of pride of, like, sucking it up and getting a job sometimes. That happens to all of us, and honestly, I think it's for the best for a lot of folks, because the pain is difficult, for sure.
Yes. And like, yeah, sometimes like it happened to me as well. I used to own my coffee shop back in my city and I gave
Yeah,
it up to like change my career because it was taking such a high toll in my mental health and in my physical health. Like it was already showing in my physical health. So I was like, okay, I need to listen to my body, listen to my gut, and understand that sometimes you need a career change, a different path that will take you to higher places that you have no idea where it will lead you sometimes.
100%, and I ended up exiting that company for very similar reasons. I was like, this gut check it's important. It's like, because we become identified with the projects we're working on. So you have a cafe. And so a lot of folks would be like, I'm the cafe guy. Like that's who I am. And that if I don't have that cafe, then I don't know who I am. And that's it's a dangerous position to be in, because now you're not necessarily working in your best interests. So I had a similar thing where I was working in health food. And I got to tell you, health food people are totally crazy. I
They are.
mean, they're nuts. They don't pay their bills. They got excuses. They're going to give 5% to the environment, but they're not paying their vendors. It's unbelievable. So I was like, I got to get out of this. Same thing. I'm like, dude, my mental health, my emotional well-being, my future in this, heck no. So, I did the exact same thing. I got out of there and I took a job, and I was like, I'm going to work a job. I'm going to take a deep breath, and then we'll figure out what's next. And I think sometimes that's absolutely healing. And, that's one thing since that I've really tried to do, is to try and separate my identity from the project I'm working on, just so that I can be honest with myself that if it's time to pull the plug and get out of there, I can do that without any additional emotional damage, you know?
That's so true. Like, we get very lost and we confuse who we are with what we do. And I mean, it correlates in a point, but when people ask us like, who are you? You're like, oh, I have this job, or oh, I have these hobbies. Like, no, but who are you? Like without all of those things that you do, like actively do outside, like who are you as a person? And that is so true. Sometimes we hold them so strong to the things that we believe make ourselves, that they don't even matter at the end of the day, because who you are
Yeah.
don't depend on them.
Yeah. And it's so challenging. And I think maybe there's probably baby steps in there, because we all do it. I know I still do it. I'm a fly fisherman or whatever. You kind of put yourself in the box. But, I had a whole previous life as like a touring musician and made records. And so, to talk about it, like to say I was a musician, is like, just hearing that on my mouth is painful. It's like, no, 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 you're still a musician. You got out of there like a sane person would. The music industry is insane. So,
So I'm curious to know which
Fernanda,
industry are not insane, because health, like the industry is. I'm guessing the podcast industry is not.
podcast industry is amazing.
It is. It
At
is.
least in the business categories are great, because people that are successful with business podcasts are successful professionals, which means they know how to work with other people ultimately. But boy, you start getting into entertainment and influencers, they're crazy again. It just goes to all decorum has left the building, and they're nuts.
A
So,
little.
Fernando, I'm curious about your coffee shop. Tell me what's your favorite coffee drink? What are you drinking first thing in the morning?
Okay, so my favorite drink is like straight black coffee, and it depends on the origin and the process. Like the way I like to drink it, sometimes espresso, sometimes a V60, sometimes a Chemex. It depends on the coffee, the type of coffee that I'm drinking. But black coffee I love. Right now I'm drinking a cappuccino. So like any kind of coffee beverage I like. One of my favorite drinks that is very controversial and people hate it when they listen to it is a lemonade with an espresso shot. It's so
Oh,
delicious and it's so refreshing. It was my favorite thing to drink after I got done with my mountain biking riding. Like when I came back from the ride, that was like the perfect drink to have.
does that drink have a name?
No, not really. I think I just invented it and it was like straight lemonade with an espresso shot.
You got to give it a name. That's the Fernanda.
That's the Fernanda. I'm guessing so.
I like it. Because Arnold Palmer is the lemonade iced tea, which is delicious.
I need to try that.
So the
I don't think I've
Fernanda,
ever tried that.
oh, it's good. It's refreshing, but I'm gonna try that too. There's a drink at a coffee shop near here. They got a espresso tonic. So it's tonic water. They put like a candied orange in it and then like espresso. And it's pretty good. It's
It's
pretty
very
good.
good. Like whenever they don't like when I go to a coffee shop that doesn't have lemon to make like lemon juice and a lemonade, then I'll ask for an espresso tonic.
Nice. Lemonade with espresso. That sounds amazing. Okay, so you like black coffee. What are the beans? What beans are you going for, like a Kona or like an Ethiopian?
I mean, I most of the time I drink Mexican coffee for two reasons. One, I like to support like Mexican producers. And the other one
Yeah.
is like it's kind of hard to get like foreign beans here in Mexico because it's like very expensive to bring them. Because we produce coffee, so like they charge a very high tax to bring other coffees in, which I totally agree with. I think we should support what we produce. And there's one special place, like one special, I'm not sure how the name is in English, finca, like the terrain that they grow it in. It's called Chelin and it's in Oaxaca. Enrique Lopez.
Okay.
He's a great producer. That's
Nice.
that's one of my favorite beans, but we have great coffee here in Mexico. But the honeys are my favorite ones. Like whatever honey coffee, I love them.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, Mexico is the number one place for food in the world, you know?
Yes,
Uh,
absolutely. And we have
you could,
everything. We have absolutely everything. We have wine, we have coffee, we have chocolate. Amazing
I know.
food. What else could I ask for?
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Cinnamon and chocolate in the coffee. That was Mexico's contribution, I think, originally to coffee culture. Unbelievable. It's I do it every day. Actually, this is what I have. You might appreciate this being an expert barista. I'm more of an amateur barista, but I have a very fussy coffee order. So I start with, 3 shots of espresso, and then I have my little powder mix, and I got a little wooden spoon, and it's chocolate powder, cacao, cinnamon, and a little bit of clove mixed in there. It's just all thing, and so I'll put that in there, and then I do a little tab of butter and a little bit of coconut oil, and then the espresso and blend it. And usually I'll put creatine in there too because why not? You know what I mean? It
Bulletproof
doesn't add to
coffee.
the flavor. Bulletproof coffee. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and then just a touch of honey, just a touch of honey.
It sounds so
It's
delicious.
unbelievable.
With a touch of cardamom, that would be so amazing.
Cardamom, okay. I'll
Yeah.
I'll put that in there. Should I put that in the powder, and, mix it all in?
Yes, because cardamom, I think it's like very similar to cinnamon, but it has like a hint of something like fresh, like kind of minty feeling. I don't know, but I love cardamom. And I think the mixture of cardamom and clove and cinnamon, all that, all
Mhm.
those things mixed up, I think it's going to go amazing. And actually, here we have most of the chocolatiers, they have like one chocolate that is with chili. It's a bit spicy. And there's one that is chili and cardamom, and another one that has orange and cardamom. Those ones are amazing.
Orange and cardamom. Yeah, I was doing the chili powder in there too for a while, which I
It's
did
great.
that, and it was really good. But I was doing that because I was drinking, like, 3 or 4 of those drinks a day, and I
Okay.
was like, "I gotta s" so I put the chili in there to slow me down. It's like, "This'll be more of a sipper," 'cause it was hot.
And how was the
Nice.
hyperactivity with all that coffee?
Oh, I was amped to the gills like I am right now, like, I'm so amped on coffee all the time, but fortunately, it just stacks me with a lot of extra energy, and I don't get the massive anxious rush. My wife,
That's
she
nice.
she has 2 cups of coffee, and she's like a mess, but in a positive way.
But I mean, we
Yeah.
women have like we are more sensitive to caffeine. So that makes sense.
Is that true?
Yeah. And
It's
like
gotta be just like even a oh, go ahead, sorry.
yeah, and even with like our hormones, it's like we can drink coffee, but there is like a certain amount of coffee that you should not like exceed for everyday consumption, because in the long term it can affect like your bone density and stuff. So we need to be like, coffee is good. It has like antioxidants, the energy, it has lots of benefits, but until a certain point.
Yeah. It's hilarious. Like all the science of like, oh, coffee's good for you. It's just scientists. I'm convinced it's just scientists that drink 10 cups of coffee a day, and they
I
probably have a
mean,
beer at night and they're like, beer's actually really good for you. You're like, no kidding.
they will give all the recommendations.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when you work as a
Right.
barista, like I used to, I remember I would drink like so much coffee. Like now I limit myself to 2 cups a day, and that's perfect. I can drink sometimes like 3 cups. I will feel it in the night. I will have like a harder time going to sleep, but you can definitely exceed like the day limit.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was a kid, I was like a teenager and I worked at a Peaberry coffee shop as a barista. I was not very good. I couldn't do any of the cool patterns or anything. But same thing. I was drinking, it was just like heavy cream and shots of espresso all day. And it was way, 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 way too much.
Sounds delicious. Heavy cream with espresso shots.
So good. So good.
Yeah.
It's great. All right. This has been awesome. Appreciate it, Fernanda. Let's end with a recommendation. Either Netflix show, Amazon show, something you're watching, something you've been really into the last couple of weeks.
That's gonna be hard because I don't really watch TV. Like not now. I used
Movies,
to.
podcasts, books. What do you got?
Books. I love books. And actually, about like the healthy food industry, I just finished one book from Michael Pollan, I think he's called. It's called The Omnivore's Dilemma. It's a great book.
I love Michael Pollan. Did you read his
Yeah.
other one
Could.
about Free Your Mind, about psychedelics?
I haven't read that one, but I've seen it and I'm very curious to read about it.
Cool. Yeah. So, what were some good takeaways from the omnivore dilemma?
I think it's a great, like, it sums up a lot of my life's philosophy that we need to find the sweet spot in everything. Like it's very good for your health to help the environment, but also it's like very hard to be thinking about it all of the time. So my takeaways were like, try to consume locally as much as you can, but also be aware of your needs and your pocket while you're doing it. Find the sweet spot in everything. But it's a very interesting book. I do recommend, like,
Yeah.
I think everyone should go ahead and read it. And also, one of the other things that I kept like so strongly from it, as humans have evolved, we have lost so much connection with nature and to where our food comes from. And I think especially right now with like the fitness industry and the protein consumption and everything, we have like separated ourselves so much from where the food comes from that I don't think if we had to be like hunters again, I'm not sure how many of us would still be eating meat. And it's so strong, because we eat like meat every day. We're just not aware of the sacrifice it brings with it. That's it. I think we should be just like a little bit more aware of our food.
So, Fernanda, I think that means that you probably should come out elk hunting with me next year and in Colorado.
I'd love to.
You ready?
Yes, I'd be so curious to go because my father used to be a hunter.
Yeah.
All his family, they are butchers. Like he became a doctor somehow, but all of his brothers, they're butchers. And he used to go and hunt. I think you just have like a different appreciation for food once you like have to go ahead and kill the animal and then bring it home and tear it apart. And it's just different. I would love to hunt one day.
Yeah. It makes a big difference. I got an elk this year, cow elk, and we eat elk probably 4 times a week,
Wow.
So, you go to the freezer and you bring the meat to the table to prepare, whether it's, bolognese sauce or it's tacos or whatever you're doing with it, eat little steak medallions. And it's incredible, because I know exactly in the forest where I harvested that animal. And, in the elk are so big that you field dress them. So you actually kind of butcher them in the field and then pack them out. And I'm fortunate enough to hunt with with horses to bring them out. But yeah, I mean,
Wow.
the key takeaways from that omnivore dilemma is really, the impact, the moral implications of factory farming. And it's the kind of thing that once you see it, you can't unsee it. But, to take an animal in its natural habitat and, do it ethically, and be able to like eat that animal for a year, it feels great, it's incredible.
Yeah, it sounds like for example, like I don't know if I mentioned to you, but we have like hens here in my at my parents' place. And like we go and gather like the eggs every day and we bring them. And like we don't have a rooster, so there is like no chicken. They have
Yeah.
they don't have any chicks, right? But sometimes when people come over and they're like, "Oh my god, I don't know if I'm gonna crack the egg and a chicken's gonna pop out of there," and I'm like, "It's not because we don't have a rooster, but what if?" Like you need to be aware of like you're eating an animal, you know? Like,
Yeah.
would it be such a big deal if you got a chicken out of an egg? Like, wouldn't it be like
Yeah.
kind of
E
obvious?
Yeah.
Right.
That's funny, but to your point, like, people don't really understand that there's no rooster, so it can't be a chicken, like, because we're separated from our food, you know?
Exactly.
So, I'm all for it, I remember my last place, I got really into bees, and I wanted to, like, raise bees for the honey. But I went to Mr. Lucero, my neighbor, and I was like, "Hey, Mr. Lucero, I wanted to ask you a question because this can kind of affect you. But like, see in that back corner, it's not near your fence, but like, I want to put a beehive back there." He looked at me. He's like, "Bees? No." I was like, "Oh yeah, they're sweet. They make honey. I'll bring you honey." He's like, "Ryan, please don't bring bees." I was like, "Okay, okay,
Okay.
no problem. I don't want to create a beef on the block, but yeah, I'm into it. One day I wanna have chickens too.
They're great.
Okay,
They're a
great
bit loud, but
great
they're great.
yeah, totally. Great recommendation. The Omnivore's Dilemma. I love Michael Pollan. I'll
But
do a quick
you,
yeah, I'll do a quick recommendation. I watched American Primeval on Netflix, and I loved it. It's unbelievably violent. It is insanely one of the most violent things I've ever seen, and I guess I just like violence, but it's also Old West, and I'm a big buff of 19th century, plains, I love it. We've talked about that in the past, so the what this is about is the battle for the Utah territory. So
okay.
you've got the different Indian tribes. You have the Utes, which I'm very sympathetic. Where I go hunting is all Ute hunting ground, traditionally. There's like the Shoshones, there's the Lakota are in it. It's amazing, all these different tribes. And then you have the settlers, people that are coming west. Then you have the military, and then you have the Mormons. And this was the kind of cool like twist is that I've never seen like an Old West movie or series or whatever where the Mormons are depicted. And the way they depict the Mormons is they are just straight up gangsters. They they're killing everybody. They're killing they're shooting everybody. They're being sneaky. It's great, and it's a great juxtaposition because I love Mormons. I got Mormons in my family, and they're some of the nicest, most decent, amazing people there are. So to see like this depiction of like their gangster roots was absolutely awesome. I highly recommend it. Although people should definitely know that if you're getting into that show, it's pretty gruesome. It's pretty hardcore.
Okay. And definitely, I think it's not a good go to bed show to watch.
No, no, it's very scary. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think you're going to have very sweet dreams with that one.
No, you are not. You are not. Because the cold realities of the old west are, man, I read about it all the time and love it. It's kind of like, you know, I'm always rooting for the Native Americans, and it's kind of, the ending. So that part always sucks, but You know, it's a great show. I highly recommend it.
Sounds like I'm gonna try and see if I can watch it here because like the DMS is different and we don't have the same shows. But if I have it, I'm definitely gonna watch it now because you
Cool.
make
If
it
you can
sound
make it
great.
through, yeah, if you can make it through the first episode, you'll be okay. The first episode is unbelievable.
Do you mean
Oh,
like from
nice.
a violent angle, like it's very violent and very gruesome?
Yeah, very gruesome. I think like probably 70 people get killed in great detail,
Okay.
in an ambush.
My father is
So,
gonna love it though. If I get to watch it, I'm sure my father is gonna love it.
sounds like I need to meet your dad. I think we would be buddies.
Probably. You should go
Yes.
hunting together.
Yeah, we go get I know you guys got whitetails out there, whitetail deers, and I think you got
Yes.
like mule deers.
Like actually just around my place, because we live in a very remote area. There's deers over here. Like sometimes I go out to the gym at 5:30 a.m. and I have seen a couple of times like deers or rabbits, or there's another like sort of like bigger cat that here they call it jaguarundi. It's like a small jaguar. There's lots of
Whoa,
animals with it.
cool. I need
Yeah,
to get
it's
out there. Okay,
amazing.
Fernanda, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate it. I feel like every time we do this, I learn more about you. So thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you so much for the time as well. It's been amazing.
You bet.